So a lot of you have been requesting me for my tips and tricks from my experience that I also teach my students, and this video is particularly for you guys because you wanted these tips and tricks and I have presented them in this video. Inshallah, they're going to help you. Now there are a lot of things to talk about, but I am not going to cover these things extensively, but there are some key points that I need to make sure that you understand. Point number one is, if you think that your academy or your coaching center is going to help you at this point in time at the 11th hour, you're destroyed. By now you have understood all the concepts and you know everything what's inside the textbook. So listening to the lectures is not what you need right now. You need to do practice and sitting in the classes listening to the same words. For instance, if there is topic Coulomb's law and you have already studied it well and you have practiced all the numericals, but another teacher comes in and teaches you the same topic in some different words and in a flowery language or fancy language, this is not what's going to help you. You need to be practicing right now. That's all that you could do. Okay, so point number two is, you have already read the book more number of times by now than what was required of you. For instance, you just had to read the book only 3 times, and this is my at most case scenario, because beyond 3 times it's useless and less than 3 times it's underdone. So probably by now you might have overdone it. You have read the book more number of times, you have read it more than 3 times for instance, and this is what's not going to help you, because reading a book and retaining all that what's inside that book are 2 different traits, are 2 different tricks, and reading is not necessarily translatable to retaining and recalling everything in the test situation. You need to practice your memory skills, you need to recall things, you need to start practicing the recalling, the reiteration, and this is done by reiteration. This is done through remembering things and trying to recall things again and again. So let's now commence the tips and tricks formally. I usually divide the aptitude test skills into 3 segments. Segment number 1 comprises your focus skills and your concentration skills. This segment has also your retention skills and your recalling skills. Segment number 2 is your time management or organization skills, and segment number 3 comprises your skill set or the set of tools that you acquire over the course of preparation of the test. So I also tell my students to consider college aptitude tests not as merely assessments or examinations, but as mere games of strategy and planning, because you have to plan wisely, you have to act wisely if you need to be successful and reach out to the medical college. Now if I were to draw a pie chart, I would assign only 20 to 30% of the total weightage to your set of tools or segment 3. But this skill set is going to influence the other 2 segments as well. It has a connection. Everything is interlinked and interconnected, and you need to focus on all of these things, and you will need to keep all of this in mind. Let's begin the tips. Tip number 1. Increase your attention span. Focus on each word of the question and try to understand the language. There are questions in which some data is implicit. A simple example is that of a ball that is thrown upwards. We know that the final velocity is going to be 0, and we also know that the acceleration due to gravity is going to be negative. This is a very simple example. The acceleration due to gravity is going to be negative, but we often forget putting a negative sign while doing the numerical on paper. Things like this are assumptions, and you will need to make these assumptions by yourself. Nobody is going to come, no external party is going to come in and step in and tell you that okay, this assumption is wrong or this assumption is right. You have to make these assumptions, and you have to be consistent in your assumptions. When the ball goes upwards, the acceleration due to gravity is going to remain negative. When it comes down, it's going to be positive. This is how the numerical should be proceeded with. Second part of this tip, the second part of the first tip is that when you focus on a particular question in the actual test setting and the preparation test sessions, whether you are enrolled in any academy or coaching center or not, the second part is that all of the world other than that particular question should disintegrate in front of you. If that does not happen and your mind is still diverted with little voices or noise, that's going to be problematic in the actual test setting, and this is something that I let my students practice again and again. Tip number 2 is prioritize your work. Some of you are good at chemistry, some of you might be good at biology or physics or even English. All you need to know is the subject that you're good at and then attempt the same subject on slot number 1. Similarly, the next best subject is going to be assigned to slot number 2. So that basically works in two ways. First, it gives you ample chance to maximize your score while attempting the easier questions first, and that's going to be subjective because for some students chemistry is going to be good. For some students, biology is going to be better than physics, and this is how it happens. So that gives you ample chance to maximize your score. Attempt all the easier questions first and you're good with it. And secondly, it helps you get a good warm up for all the harder questions to come. Tip number 3, you don't need to focus on a question too much if you think that you are not able to get it even after reading it, say 5 times. There are trick questions of absolute difficulty level spreading throughout the test just to act as speed breakers. Make sure you avoid those speed breakers in order to maintain a constant pace. Consistent throughout your test. Tip number 4, manage your time accordingly. Now this is a 3-step procedure. In the first step, you have to divide the total time by 4 and get an estimated or ideal time. If the test is 2 hours long, you will have 30 minutes for each section, that's by default. In the second step, you need to act according to tip number 2 that I just mentioned. Just complete your prioritized sections so that you have some excess time left for the other sections. In the third step, divide that particular excess time equally amongst the harder sections. This is what I teach my students. Tip number 5. Now medical students are sometimes proud of the fact that they don't have to study mathematics or algebra or statistics. A little grasp of algebra or statistics or simple techniques of multiplication or division is going to take you a long way across your journey towards the medical college, and this is going to be very helpful for you in doing the numericals and in your time allocation, time distribution that I have just taught you. Tip number 6, take a risk. Students are often confronted with the situation during the test where they are not brave enough to take any sort of risks with the choices or the questions. They just leave the question and say that okay, there is negative marking on the test, so I'm not sure about this option or that option, I'm just going to leave the question blank and not take any of the options. But this should not happen. If there are 5 choices if there are 5 choices given to you and you could eliminate 3 out of them, you have the maximum number of chances when you could just get a right answer. 50% chance or 0.5 probability. So now you're advised to take a risk, and that is a situation where you should be brave and bold enough and be confident enough to take that risk, because there is 50% chance that the option you choose is the right answer. That was basically it. These were some of the tips and tricks that I believe are not communicated to students no matter what good academy they're studying at. Now if you want to discuss any of your time management or strategic planning problems, you may reach out to me on my Facebook page, that is RK Writes. Just message me and I personally manage my page. I will get back to you in a short while. Secondly, if you need to consult a subject specialist, you may message your query on my business page which goes by the name of Persiscon. My panel of subject specialists is going to help you free of cost. Until next time, I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you very much.